Intelligent people often have many conversations, but very few connections. They can explain complex ideas, solve difficult problems, and understand systems that most people never notice. And yet, many of them quietly feel something they rarely admit out loud. Loneliness. Not the kind that comes from being physically alone, but the kind that comes from feeling fundamentally different, as if you're observing the world from slightly outside of it. If you're someone who constantly analyzes everything, if your mind rarely stops thinking, if you often feel like conversations around you are strangely shallow, then you might recognize this feeling. You can sit in a room full of people and still feel like the only person there. Not because others are bad or unintelligent, but because your mind seems to operate on a completely different frequency. And over time, that difference can quietly turn into distance. In this video, we're going to explore why intelligent people often feel socially disconnected, why deep thinkers struggle with relationships, and the psychological patterns that slowly turn intelligence into isolation. But more importantly, we'll look at how understanding this pattern can help transform loneliness into something. Many intelligent people notice the same experiences repeating throughout their lives. Conversations often feel predictable. Small talk feels exhausting. You might find yourself silently analyzing everything people say, noticing contradictions, patterns, or hidden motivations. While others are simply enjoying the moment, your mind keeps digging deeper. Sometimes you hold back your thoughts because explaining them would take too long. Other times, you do share them, only to realize people aren't really interested in going that deep. So you simplify yourself. You shorten your explanations. You laugh at jokes you don't find funny. And little by little, you start feeling like people aren't interacting with a real version of you. They're interacting with a simplified version. And that creates a quiet kind of loneliness. Psychologists sometimes describe this experience through something called cognitive complexity. People with higher cognitive complexity naturally process more layers of information. They see patterns, consequences, and hidden meanings faster and more frequently. But this ability comes with an unexpected side effect: overanalysis. Your mind doesn't just observe situations. It dissects them. It questions motives. It anticipates outcomes. While others are simply experiencing a moment, your mind is often studying it. And this can create a strange psychological gap. Not because intelligent people are better than others, but because they experience the same social environment differently. Where one person sees a conversation, another person sees psychology, social dynamics, power structures, and emotional signals all at once. And that level of processing can make normal interactions feel strangely unsatisfying. Imagine someone who is always considered the smart one. In school, they were praised for understanding things quickly. Teachers encouraged them to think deeper. Family members admired their intelligence. At first, that identity feels empowering. But over time, something subtle begins to happen. They start noticing that many conversations never go beyond the surface. They crave deeper discussions, meaningful ideas, philosophy, complex questions about life. But those conversations are rare. So they adapt. They become quieter in groups, more observant, less expressive, until eventually they're no longer participating as much. They're just watching. The real danger of this pattern isn't loneliness itself. It's emotional distance. When intelligent people feel repeatedly misunderstood, they often begin protecting themselves. They share less. They explain less. They stop expecting others to understand. And this creates a psychological wall. Not because they want to isolate themselves, but because they've learned that deeper connection feels unlikely. Ironically, the very intelligence that helps them understand the world can sometimes prevent them from fully participating in it. But there's an important realization hidden inside this experience. Loneliness isn't always a sign that something is wrong. Sometimes it's a signal that your mind needs a different kind of environment, deeper conversations, curious people, creative thinkers. When intelligent people finally find spaces where exploration and curiosity are welcomed, something changes. The same mind that once felt isolated suddenly feels energized. Because intelligence thrives on connection with other curious minds. If you recognize yourself in this pattern, there are a few things worth remembering. First, intelligence doesn't require isolation. It simply requires the right conversations. Second, not every interaction needs to be intellectually stimulating. Some relationships exist for laughter. Others exist for depth. And finally, being understood sometimes requires showing people more of your real thoughts, even when it feels uncomfortable. Because connection begins the moment authenticity replaces performance. Intelligence can make the world more complex, but it can also make it more meaningful. The real challenge isn't learning to think less. It's learning where your thinking truly belongs. Because sometimes the people who feel the most alone are simply the ones still searching for their intellectual home. And in the next video, we'll explore another hidden psychological pattern. Why people who overthink everything often struggle with happiness, and what their minds are really trying to protect them from.